for being here. My name's Sean Kinnear. I get to work with Side Porch. I get to work with great people like Andy and Jackie. We help good people do hard things in service to the planet. Like, our job is to try and find hard problems that are being worked on by people we love and try and go make a difference in the world. Right? And so many of you in this room are kind of on that same journey or trying to find ways onto that on-ramp to fight for the forces of good. And we're really glad to have you here. We're recording this so we can share this out with the rest of the world that would be interested. Also, the slide decks or anything you hear or people you want to be connected to, feel free to reach out to me, to Andy, to anybody. We'll help you make connections into to what you're doing. To be clear, we run a consulting group, but the only way we can see what's happening and really hit the mission we have is to try and bring communities together. So we spend a lot of time trying to do this type of work. Want to do a couple thank yous. There's a lot of I sent a long email last night of gratitude to people just so I wouldn't spend the next 20 minutes telling people how much I love them and how much I appreciate them. But there's a few groups that I do want to acknowledge this morning as we start, and I'll say this at the end as well. Northwind Climate, who's going to be our first presenter, they help sponsor this. They help bring this to you, so thank you guys for helping us with that. Just to Serve Coffee provided some coffee in the back as well. It's a new company that's coming out to provide ownership opportunities to formerly incarcerated individuals. It's an extraordinary and ambitious effort that's going. Rob in the back, you can find the Just to Serve Coffee hat. And Rob, along with being an entrepreneur, is doing a lot of other really great stuff. So good humans in the room. Want to thank Lauryn, whom we're going to hear from, but quick note, because of Lauryn we get to be here, but really because of Camille we get to be here. So I'm going to first welcome the founder and CEO of Charger Help to talk about where we are, why we're here, but thank you, Camille, for letting us be here. So.
I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my other. I'm a co-founder, so there's two of us. But thank y'all so much for coming out. I want to welcome you, be the first to welcome you to South Central Los Angeles. You're off of the corner of Crenshaw and Exposition. This is a beautiful community that has done great things over the years, and I have had the true pleasure to be able to invite folks into the space over the last almost 2 months. We've had dignitaries from the California Energy Commission. We've had church officials. Just yesterday, we brought in our company from 17 different states, folks who have been working towards being a part of this green economy. So super quickly, at Charger Help, we are obsessed with the next step past deployment. We know that there's a huge opportunity in deploying EV charging stations, and that is something that should be done, mainly because I check the air quality index every morning, and this morning by my home, it was 122. And so we know that charging stations are very important. It is not the silver bullet. We need to build better cities, more sustainable cities, all these things, but if we are going to do a thing, let's do it well. And so at Charger Help, we look at how these charging stations, which are computers, how they interact with one another when they break down, what is the software protocols that are failing, and then also utilizing real humans, real people that we pay a minimum of $30 an hour, give healthcare benefits, and have equity in the company to go out and help us gather a very valuable data set from the field. We've been doing that for 5 years. We've raised over $22 million. And this space, as I wrap up, was so incredibly important to us because in the EV charging space, in order to touch a station, you have to be certified on a hardware. And today, to get certified on a hardware, you typically have to fly to where the station is built. And so you would have to pay for your flight to get there. It typically costs maybe $1,000 or so to even take the class. And most of the manufacturers only offer maybe 3 classes a month. And so what we wanted to do was to bring a space in South Central Los Angeles where we would facilitate and work in partnership with manufacturers. So these are hardware manufacturers that have donated their stations here that folks do not have to fly somewhere, do not have to pay an extra, but actually get the training here in this space. And we did it in a partnership with the LA Clean Tech Incubator. So you are in good company. Thank you again for being here. And once again, welcome to South Central Los Angeles.
Your co-founders at the White House right now?
My co-founder is that I don't get to do any. You guys are actually way cooler. I was going to say.
I think Camille just said she wishes she was at the White House. But thanks for letting us be here. This morning, we're going to have 2 different presentations. We're going to have 2 different groups that are looking at kind of the same problem set from different angles, present some information, and then Lauren's going to lead a conversation, and there's going to be time for audience collaboration. Later on this afternoon, we're running 3 different sessions focused on industrial decarbonization. So it's a different angle to the climate challenge, and there's going to be a whole host of different people coming. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. There's going to be tacos in between, and then afterwards the bar opens up probably about 2 or 3. So stay as long as you want. And like I said, afterwards we have this being filmed, there's pictures being taken, there's more good people walking in the door, and we're happy to make connections however we can. Logistics, there's 1 restroom inside. We brought the restrooms outside as well, so bathroom there, 2 bathrooms outside as well, and all kinds of refreshments in back. And right now, what I'd like to do is welcome Northwind up here. This is a new company. We've known the leaders of this organization for years, and we've respected them. They saw an opportunity they're going to talk to us about, and they found a hole in marketplaces that didn't exist, and they're going to share some of the initial insights of the company with us. So I'd love to have Sarah and Aaron come on up. And you'll note throughout the day, we're not going to spend a bunch of time on intros and names and bios. You can read all that on LinkedIn, so we're going to make it really easy to find it here. We want to focus on the conversations here and make sure that there's time for audience engagement rather than you having to listen to me read his LinkedIn bio. Even though his and Sarah's are really impressive. So I'm going to hand it over to Aaron. After this, Allison's going to talk, then Lauren's going to come up and lead a conversation. But thanks again for being here. Great.
Thank you, Sean, for that introduction. Very nice. My LinkedIn profile is not all that exciting, though. So if you can know. And thank you, Camille, wherever you went, for hosting us in this space. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to all of you for being here. My name's Aaron. My colleague Sarah and I are with Northwind Climate, and really excited to share, just take a few minutes here, share a bit of some of our research into how consumer opinions about climate change impact purchasing decisions. I'll provide a quick background on our company, our organization. Sarah will walk through an example of just how our data can be used for the solar sector in particular, and then looking forward to the discussion with Lauren as well. So to start, just a little bit of background on Northwind. There we go, one more. So we are the first communications data company with an exclusive focus on how climate concerns impact consumer purchasing decisions. Our founder and a lot of our staff, myself included, are veterans of political campaigns. And we're taking that same approach to public opinion research that we've used successfully in political campaigns over the years and focusing it instead of on voters, on consumers. There's a ton of research happening right now of voters in the climate space as a result, or as it relates to policy. But again, we're focusing more on consumers and consumer purchasing with this. And so we are in the field every single month collecting new data across different technologies and different sectors, trying to have the ultimate goal of helping companies that have climate technologies accelerate the deployment and adoption of those products. And so some of our preliminary research we wanted to share with you all today. A majority of consumers across generations are willing to make purchasing decisions based on climate. And this is a really positive and exciting thing. You'll see young people especially, but really a majority of all consumers are willing to pay a little bit more for a product that they know is produced sustainably. What's more interesting though is this holds true across the political spectrum as well. 75% of Democrats agree with that statement, but so do 51% of Republicans would be willing to pay more for something they know is produced sustainably. And so if you are ignoring Republicans because you assume they're not necessarily interested in sustainability or sustainable products, you could be ignoring a huge potential consumer base. But consumers also don't feel like they have enough information to make climate-friendly purchasing decisions themselves. And they're looking for companies to help them. You can see here a significant majority of moms, of young people, of people earning over $75,000 in income want companies to help them as a consumer be more environmentally friendly. Now this may not be particularly surprising to you with those groups, but the same is true for people earning under $30,000 a year in income. rural residents, and even 58% of conservatives and Trump voters are looking for companies to help them as a consumer be more environmentally friendly. And so what this tells us is traditional demographics aren't doing a very good job at identifying who these climate-conscious consumers actually are. And so that was one of the problems that we at Northwind were trying to solve for. And so we did some advanced modeling on this data to develop 5 different segments of the American consumer base. And so that means everybody in this room falls into one of these 5 groups. I would guess probably one of the top 2 or 3, but you never know. So these segments are based off of survey responses, not any demographic filters. And so at the top, apologies again if this is a little dense and hard to read, we'll circulate this after if folks are interested. The climate doers at the top, these are the folks in the consumer base, about 15% of the population, that are most concerned about climate change. These are the ones that are more apt to prioritize climate when they're making purchasing decisions. The distressed still care a lot about climate change, but they're maybe a little bit less financially secure than the climate doers are. The climate detached don't see climate necessarily as unimportant, but they don't feel like it's going to have a direct impact on their lives. It's more of a problem for future generations rather than their own. Those top 3 segments represent about 75% of the consumer base. And the bottom 2, the doubters, this is where you start to see a little bit more skepticism about climate science, but still, some openness to environmentally friendly products. And then just about 8% of the consumer base we put into this climate denier category. These folks are highly skeptical that anthropogenic climate change is a real thing. And so these segments, what's most interesting about them to me is they cross demographic lines, which is why they're important. So if anyone wanted to hazard a guess, just as an example, within our climate doer category, what % of those climate doers would you guess are Republican? Anybody want to guess? 35? 20%? You guys are guessing higher than I. You might guess that it's a little bit of a trick question. I would have guessed, yeah, single digits, maybe low single digits. But in reality, it's actually over 30%. About 32% of climate doers are Republicans. And so these segments can be better predictors of consumer behavior than traditional demographics alone. This graph on the left you can see is we asked consumers if they'd be willing to pay $2 or more on a fast food meal if they know it was produced sustainably. And you can see across education, across gender, not a real difference when you're looking at those demographics. Maybe a slight difference across political affiliation there at the bottom, but when you look across our segments at the top, there's very clear differences between all the segments. Same is true on the right side. This is likeliness to consider an EV for your next vehicle. No real differences across some of the other more common demographics that you might look at, but very significant differences across the segments. And so we've done this research across a lot of different sectors and technologies, from EVs and food, heat pumps, battery storage. Sarah's going to come up very shortly and share how this sort of approach with our segments will apply to the solar sector specifically. But if you are working in any of these sectors too and are interested in data on one that I didn't mention, like I said, we're in the field every single month collecting new data on all of this, and we would be more than happy to kind of craft and focus some of our research into other subject areas that would be helpful for more folks. So let me leave it there and invite Sarah to come up and walk through in much more detail, because she knows this data way better than I do, how this can be used for the solar sector.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming today. My name is Sarah and I'm the Director of Data Analytics here at Northwind Climate. So as Aaron said, today I'm going to talk about the current state of consumer opinion in the solar industry. And before we dive in, and I know Aaron just talked about this, so the answers might already exist in your brain, but I'd like you to sit here and think, if you were tasked with selling a home decart solution like solar panels, who would you target? Perhaps it would be on gender or tech enthusiasm. How would you go about selling solar panels? And I'll take answers from the audience.
Cost.
Yes. Okay. Geography.
Subsidy, which is related to cost.
Okay, so thinking about like the consumer, how would you identify these folks based on what trait? you can? Okay, so I tried to guess here what people might guess. These are the traditional targets, and they are indeed good predictors of consumer purchasing behavior. That's why a lot of us use them. What I'm going to argue here today, and what Aaron alluded to, is we're taking a different approach. We're arguing that in order to really move the needle, we need to go beyond the traditional targeting, and we need to consider behavioral metrics in order to move the needle on climate change. And so this is where our behavioral model comes in. I'm going to refer to here as the climate value model for simplicity. And our argument is that these insights are often more powerful predictors of consumer behavior than demographics can tell us alone. For example, it might be easy to assume, as Aaron alluded, that those who are most climate enthusiasts are simply just all Democrats. Well, as Aaron said, that's not true. About 30% of them are Republicans. And when we look at the solar industry, we also see Republicans adopting solar panels. My parents' neighbor, for example, in front of their house, they have 2 Teslas parked, they have the Trump flag flying, and they have solar. So, we need to go beyond just partisanship when we're thinking about appealing to different consumers, or we're leaving out important people in the market. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the current state of consumer opinion on solar panels. Of course, we've done this research across different sectors. For simplicity, we're going to keep it here just to one. So this data was collected in August of 2024. We surveyed about 2,500 respondents that are owner-occupied, living in single-family homes. Oops, it skipped. I don't know if it's on a timer, but it skips. Huh?
Keep going.
Okay. So off the bat, we can see that there's strong enthusiasm for solar energy. About 85% of households favor solar energy as an energy source. 43% would consider solar in the next 3 years, and 15% of those would consider it in the next year. And we also see that there's high cost of electricity among all U.S. households. About over 50% say that they pay more than $150 a month for electricity. It's really emphasizing here the need for an alternative that's both clean and affordable to consumers.
It jumped back on you. So there we go.
Yeah. Okay, so to better understand consumer trends, we wanted to evaluate if folks are researching solar panels and they're actually moving forward with installations. I think this is a little bit hard to see, so I'll go slowly here. Well, if you look on the left panel here, this is people researching solar panels. And what you see here is across all of our segments, even the climate deniers, these are folks that do not believe in climate change. They are researching the costs and benefits of solar panels. And so what this means is that they're interested in solar energy for their home, but when you look here on the right-hand side, they're not actually installing solar, right? It's really the climate doers that are installing solar. So what's going on? What explains this gap between researching and having interest in solar to actual purchase intentions? So to better answer this question, let's take a look at the user experience and what it's like to Google solar. Did it skip? Is it showing it for you guys? Is it showing it?
There you go.
Okay. All right, so the highest volume query for solar panels is on cost, and it's about, well, is solar worth it? What does solar being worth it mean? Well, solar is quite expensive when you hear things like it's $20,000 or it's $40,000 and it saves you $100 a month on your bill. That doesn't sound like it's worth it to you, does it? And that's exactly what you see. So what we see from the user standpoint is that there's mixed messaging when you're trying to research the costs and benefits of solar. And it really emphasizes this theme of high upfront costs. And we're going to dive into our research here and show that our data shows, keep skipping on me, because you see it, great, okay. And our data shows this exact trend. High upfront costs are the primary concern for all consumers, followed by maintenance issues. 83% of all households express concern over the cost of solar installation. And when we look at this across different climate segments, we see that this cost concern here on the far right panel over here are high across every single segment group. A little bit lower here on the climate doers at 76%, but what you consistently see is that these cost concerns are dominant across the entire population. And so what that means is that as a solar industry, but also as a climate industry at large, we need to do a better job of messaging the affordability of solar. And so one question is, well, is it just that people are unaware of the IRA tax incentives? The 30% tax incentives that you get, is that the answer? Our data says no. It's not that people are unaware of incentives or have never heard of an incentive. We're going to argue it's framing effect. It's how you actually message these incentives and the affordability of solar that's going to help move the needle. So we did a small experiment here where we assigned people to one of 3 treatment groups. The first treatment group here at the top right emphasizes that you can get solar with no money down and it'll reduce your costs by $150 a month. The second treatment group says that solar is going to cost you $20,000 up front, you can get a 30% tax credit through the IRA, and you're going to save $150 a month. And finally, the last treatment group says that you can get $20,000, it costs $20,000, doesn't say anything about a tax incentive, and it's still going to save you $150 a month. And what you see here is pretty clear. When you present people with a zero down option, interest in solar is really high, it's at 75%. And when you tell people that it costs $20,000 up front, interest is really, really low, it's 28%. And I looked at this across our different climate segments, and climate deniers are interested in solar when you tell them that it's going to save them money, and it's not going to cost them $20,000 up front. And so what does that tell us as people who are working in marketing? How you message, oh, go ahead.
Just really quickly, but the net result of all of them is the same.
Can you ask the question differently?
Can you say that it's no money down? I mean, how does that? Are you saying it's being financed another way?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about financing options. We actually did some extra research about telling people that they can bank with a green bank and how they would like that. But yeah, for simplicity purposes, for the experiment, we just kept it this simple. Of course, we can do another treatment group that says 1% financing, zero down, $150 a month. But the point being is it's really how you frame the upfront cost portion that's going to help move the needle. And so we also asked this question a little bit differently. What appeals to consumers most about solar? So we covered their concerns, we covered the user path when we're talking about trying to learn more about solar. What's an appealing message to consumers when it comes to getting solar energy? Well, it's cost reduction and it's independence in form of energy.